Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosovich, George Stoya here from the Soonerscoop.com studios. A special offer for you out there on YouTube. $1, 2 months, Soonerscoop.com. Pretty simple. Promo code OU1. A lot of happenings here as we head into the regular season, George, or the finale of the regular season. Oklahoma and TCU coming up on Friday. I keep wanting to say Saturday, but Friday morning, Black Friday, that is, you can, if you're going out and doing what poor people do and shop on Black Friday, hey, maybe I'll be out there. Probably not, though. I'll be down here in Norman with you, George. It's kind of crazy. The final regular season game, the final Big 12 offering, and storylines aplenty as we wonder who's going to be the quarterback for Oklahoma following the head injury on Saturday to Dillon Gabriel. Brent Venables talked about it. Let's hit on it right off the top. Brent Venables talked about kind of his status. He's a little bit more optimistic maybe than even I think I would be.
And I wonder if it's somewhat gamesmanship. I think that there's something to that. We went out to practice last night. It didn't look like Dillon had shoulder pads on. He did have his helmet. He wasn't wearing it, so I don't think he practiced. And if he did, he was just kind of observing, I would think. Maybe throwing the ball around a little bit.
If nothing else, it was good that he was just out there. You know, I think when you're talking about concussion, and it's kind of ironic or coincidental that they're playing TCU, a team that knocked him out last year down in Fort Worth,
and which would make you think that he also wants to probably play. And again, it's his senior day as well on Friday, so we'll see. I mean, Brent, we're going to roll the clip here in a second. Sounds pretty optimistic that he's going to be able to play. Even if he does, I think Jackson Arnold's going to take a lot of the reps in practice this week. I'm sure that he's preparing somewhat to play on Friday if he has to. I know they practiced on Sunday, and if Dillon didn't practice on Monday, then I'm guessing he didn't practice Sunday either. So we'll see. Usually concussions is about a 6 to 7 day window to pass protocol. So he could be cleared by Friday. It also depends on like how mild is the concussion, how severe is it. You also take into account his history with concussions. Obviously, you mentioned the game last year against TCU. How much does that play a factor into it? How much did that maybe even play in a factor on Saturday when he went out, being precautionary, knowing his history with concussions?
I don't know if we should debate like which one was severe because at the end of the day, concussion is not good. But it would seem that maybe this one wasn't as serious as the one last year when he got completely, I think he got knocked out on the field.
Yeah, no, he was down for quite a while. I remember watching that on TV. You were obviously there. But, even the game.
Believe me, I would have rather not been down in Fort Worth last year.
Yeah, but, on Saturday, he came back and he threw a pass the next play.
It's crazy.
So, I think that it's definitely maybe not as serious. But, again, you never want to take head injuries lightly. And so it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing on Friday. Again, this week of practice, I'm sure we'll hear rumblings as the week goes on of who's getting reps and all that stuff. So we'll see. I expect him to be suited up.
Sure.
If anything, because he's going to go through senior day activities. If he plays that, I could see it being a Texas situation where he goes through warmups too, and then maybe he doesn't play once the thing gets kicked off.
Just real quick, what'd you think about Jackson Arnold and just kind of the way that he handled everything, being thrown into a tie game at halftime?
Probably about as well as you could expect. Look, was he a little bit nervous to start? Yes, he told us that after the game. He bobbles the snap, I think, on the second possession, misses some guys, has the big run that gets taken back because of the block in the back. That's something that I think he can really bring.
Block in the back.
Yeah, it was a bad call. But, that's something that I think that he's really good at, understanding when to escape the pocket, when to get rid of the football. And then I thought he settled in. He had the big throw to Farouk on third down that ended up that was the missed field goal possession by Zach Schmidt.
Sure.
Which we'll get into a little bit later too. But then the big third down, checking into that play, and throwing a dart to Farouk, I think tells you a couple things. One, he's getting coached well, right? He's listening to coaching. He's taking it well. He understands what he's supposed to do. That's something they had practiced all week, seeing that look and checking into that. And that's something that probably he didn't get a ton of reps of in practice, but he realized it in the game. Huge play. And then I think, the play that people aren't talking enough about is a couple plays before that, taking off QB power, and he picks up, 11 yards, running over a couple dudes. That was a massive, massive first down, and something that, takes a lot of guts from a true freshman, 19 years old, comes into that position, and I thought played pretty well.
You know, it's kind of crazy that this maybe is the way that the quote-unquote Jackson Arnold era begins, as he has to, basically play in backup duty. And it's kind of, I guess, ironic in a way because of the way that we talked about this very situation and said, no, you don't have to worry about it even a week ago. And now Oklahoma might be turning kind of the keys of the program over to Jackson Arnold. I would expect Dillon Gabriel to play in the bowl game, all of that kind of stuff, Big 12 championship. He would be the starter if Oklahoma were to get there. But Brent Venables was asked on Monday, what if Jackson Arnold is your starting quarterback on Friday?
I think, Jeff does a good job of when Jackson gets, they're getting the first and second team guy are getting virtually the same amount of reps. And so, the things that we're asking him to do, he's good at. We don't have to, okay, now Jackson's in, let's do this. There's some things that maybe he might be good at, but the game plan's going to be the game plan based on the things that you're going to see from an opponent. So, and then the things that we do every single week. So it's important that he has those things down, so we can go execute, the offense and still take advantage of his best skill sets. But, I think him and Dillon are very, very similar in many, many ways. I don't think, okay, well, this guy's a runner and this guy's a thrower. This can't, he can't throw, but this guy can throw. We don't have that problem with those two guys.
Yeah. No, I think he did a good job taking the helm and then leading us to a good victory and then doing his part, his 111th. And obviously the quarterback position is very important, and I think he did a great job, and we came out with the win, and that's what matters.
I would say that the number one thing that stands out for me as I watch him and his growth is just his consistency. He's never too high, never too low. He's just always the same guy every day. And likes to compete, makes the most of his opportunity, values his opportunity, respects the game and what it takes to develop. So he's got great work ethic. And, he understands as much as anybody you're going to get what you earn.
Should note that if it is Jackson Arnold, he should have Jalil Farouk available. That was another thing that Brent Venables talked about on Monday in terms of an injury report. I think that it might have got lost in the discussion at the end of the game. Jalil Farouk had to be attended to after the third down catch.
Yeah, and I don't really know what exactly his injury was. I don't think it was a concussion. Part of me thinks he may have just got the wind knocked out of him because he got rocked on that play. I know he went on
it was a hell of a throw. It was a hell of a play for Jackson Arnold to check into that. We talked about that. We did yesterday with Josh. But, for him to hold on to the ball, how things might have been different if you don't catch the ball and you're not able to hold on and run out the clock.
Yeah, no, he was fantastic. And even going back to the other third down play, that was a great catch by Farouk.
I thought that was a better throw and catch than maybe even the final one was.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Jackson had to sit in the pocket for that one and kind of wait for that to develop. But Jalil seems like he's fine. And I know right after the game, he went on Instagram Live and was dancing in the locker room. So I think his spirits were high after the game. So I think he's fine. But we'll see. They got a lot of receivers, and I'm sure that you'll see a lot of them. Nick Anderson, Jaden Gibson, both those guys been playing really well. Obviously, Drake Stoops, his last game at Owen Field as well.
Thank you to Jalil Farouk for going on Instagram Live, because that's how we got the great video of Ted Roof dancing in the locker room, which was quite exciting and maybe confusing for some of the people out there after the way the defense played on Saturday. Let's talk about the defense. It was bad. It was really, really bad. And I think that, we would be in here talking about much different things had they not been able to win the game. The 219 on the ground to maybe the worst rushing team, not even maybe, the worst rushing team statistically in the Big 12 Conference. Concern?
Not really, because we haven't seen Oklahoma really struggle like that in the run game all season. Look, I think there's several factors. One, Danny Stutzman, was sick, had an IV the night before the game. He was clearly limited in the game. They had to rotate him out a lot. You had the field issues, which I think was a problem. And then they just missed assignments. Yeah. And, it's interesting hearing Brent talk about it on Monday at his press conference. He said, look, it wasn't a situation where guys are just getting their butts whooped. It's one guy, two guys not filling their gap, not being, assignment sound. And so that feels very fixable. Whereas, in real time watching it, it's like, man, the defensive line's getting their butts kicked, and the linebackers aren't getting off blocks at the second level. All the safeties aren't coming up and filling the run game. all that stuff. But according to Brent, who in this scenario, I trust Brent when he goes back and watches the film. He says, look, he was relieved, I think was his quote, saying that, it was just one guy maybe missing his gap. They weren't sound. And that's something, Eddie, this team has been really good run defense all year. You look at what they did against Ollie Gordon just a few weeks ago. I think the Kansas game, they struggled a bit at times because of the way Kansas runs their offense. But this is kind of the first sign of them having some issues. And I do think that they can get it corrected.
Here is Brent Venables as well as Kobe McKenzie and Billy Bowman talking on the easy fix in the run game.
I watched this. I watched it on the plane. It's exactly what I watched out on the field. So not surprised. We every once in a while we kind of found our way into the right spot. And we'd stop them, and then you're not there. Next thing you know, it's it's 8, 10, 12-yard game, whatever it was. I think we had 4 runs. I think it's 4, maybe it was 5, 20 yards plus. So not good defense.
Just schematically, like Coach V said in his press conference today, we just have to be really gap sound. They had a lot of eye candy going on, and you have to be disciplined within the scheme to know, no matter what, who you have with you and who you don't. And, there was a couple plays where I myself over-pursued, and I should have just knew who I had with me. But it's small, minimal things. It wasn't a big deal at all. You just have to know who you're with and then a rep fit. And then if you don't, it'll punish you. Something so little can equivalent to something so big if you don't know schematically the gaps.
Defensively, it was a bunch of misfit gaps in the run game. So BYU had a lot of explosive plays on the ground, especially, and we just misfit them, whether that was linebackers or the safeties. So we get that fixed, and we're gonna be good.
Big, for the simple fact, if I don't communicate to Danny right there, they have enough to pick us up, and we don't have enough to guard them per se. We're gonna be really weak in that situation. The quarterback would have all day. It's big on big protection, and ultimately bringing Danny over, and they didn't have enough. Just simple as that. And then when you don't communicate, and when you don't know who's with you, you see what that can equivalent to.
Yes, it's literally very simple. Like, it's just one movement of a gap, and that's it. So it's real simple. Just watch it, and then we'll run it again the next day, and then boom, it's fixed.
It's one guy, and it's not alarm. I was actually, after, you want to know what I really felt, true serum, is I felt more relieved. Okay, it was a fit. It wasn't somebody getting their butt whooped. You get your butt whooped, you don't like it. That's your pride's always hurt a little bit when you're invested and you're a coach. But yeah, that's my guys. It matters. They're all my guys, but a position group that you're involved in, deeply invested in every single day. But it wasn't. And again, that's just wasn't some guy getting ran through as much, and we missed tackles. Don't get me wrong, but just not being in the right fits.
A bright spot on Saturday for Oklahoma was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week, Billy Bowman. I think we talked about it on the Yesterday to Lexus postgame podcast alongside Kerry Murdoch. If Billy Bowman doesn't pick off the pass, I don't know if Oklahoma can win the football game, considering where the offense was with Jackson Arnold. All of a sudden, you get that 14-point swing. It just seemed like even in, I think Eric Bailey said this to me this morning, it seemed like that almost maybe calmed things down for Jackson Arnold as well. But Billy Bowman was incredible on Saturday.
He was, and you even think the play before the pick six, he gets the tackle right before the end zone.
And how many of those did he have on Saturday? That
a lot.
If he's not there, the safety, he's the last barrier of defense. It could have been a much different ballgame.
He was their best tackler, and you watch those clips, you see the guy slipping left and right, but Billy was able to stay on his feet most of the day and make some big tackles, and he was the star. He was the player of the game. That's why he got the Big 12 honor this week. He did a really good job back there. Even talking about the defense in general too, you look at the fourth quarter, they were able to figure things out. I think BYU only had 18 yards in the fourth quarter, maybe only one first down. So they were able to eventually settle in. It took them 3 quarters to do so, and I think some of that is also kind of the play calling from BYU. But Billy was great. It again brings up the question of what's he going to do? He is draft eligible. I think he's starting to really fly up some draft boards. I know Louis Riddick, who was on the call, he used to be a former NFL GM, obviously played in the NFL, has been around a long time. He was talking about him as an NFL draft prospect on the game, on the TV broadcast. So you wonder what's he going to do next, because he is having a phenomenal year, up to 5 interceptions, 2 pick sixes, 3 in his career now. The guy's electric with the ball in his hands, and I think he'll probably get another pick at some point. He just seems to always be around the football at the right time.
Might have plenty of opportunity to do that this weekend with Josh Hoover and the TCU offense. But with that in mind, with what George just laid out there in terms of Billy Bowman, listen to this. I think you'll have a pretty good idea what Brent Venables will be telling him coming up.
I'm kind of giggling because I've seen a lot. And Billy's one of the most quiet people we have in our locker room. But he's one that there's nobody that's more highly invested than Billy. Billy loves Oklahoma. He loves to play. He's really hard on himself, puts a tremendous amount on himself. I've seen him grow as a leader this year, and was named a permanent captain, voted by his teammates yesterday, and got up in front of the guys at practice, and man, it was awesome to hear him, because I'm always trying to poke him and get him to respond and have his teammates hear him, because the players have tremendous respect for him. But he's become a much better player, and he has so much more growth. And he'll be the first one to tell you he's so far from a polished product, but he has a chance to be great because of his work ethic, his attention to detail, his love for the game. Again and again, he's his own worst critic. Really, really hard on himself, but he wants to serve his team well, wants to serve his coaches well. Super easy to coach, always locked in. He's always ready. It's been a lot of fun to see him, again, grow and mature. But I say this, again, he's played really well this year. All of his best football is still in front of him.
I think we might get a pretty good idea there of what Brent Venables will be recommending to Billy Bowman coming up. But, and again, we've talked about this before. If you could get him back, what a major piece that would be in 2024.
I mean, you're talking about, I think, one of the better secondaries in the country. If you're able to get him back, you get Gentry Williams back next year. Peyton Bowen seems like he's going to maybe carve out a role for himself next year as well. You think about the other corner spot, Kendall Dolby, Josiah Wagner, Makari Vickers. You've got a good young group, and if you can get Billy Bowman, a veteran guy, a senior, experienced guy that's played a lot of football at a really high level, it would only elevate this defense even more, along with maybe a Danny Stutzman coming back. You get Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman back. I said this yesterday. You're talking about one of the better defenses, I think, in the country.
Well, I think Josh mentioned it yesterday on the Monday program. I think that you get both of those guys back, and automatically they might have a Jim Thorpe, preseason watch list member. Not even might, he will be, but maybe expected to compete for it, as well as possibly a Butkus type guy in Danny Stutzman. One thing that Brent Venables did talk about that, it was an interesting comment in terms of the sack numbers over the last couple of weeks. 1 sack in the last 4 games, and the 1 sack coming on the strip sack that Danny Stutzman had that, basically changed kind of the momentum of the fourth quarter.
It's been really interesting to watch, because you think back to last year, they started out kind of the same way, getting a lot of sacks early in the year, and then it kind of fell off towards the end. And so you wonder, is there some concern there? Brent doesn't sound like he's too concerned. I think part of the issue, and you'll hear him talk about it in a second, you're getting a lot of teams doing some 7-8-man protection type stuff that makes it really hard. And then I think that you also look at this group, and to be completely blunt, Eddie, they just don't have an elite pass rusher right now. I think they've got a lot of just solid players. Ethan Downs has had a really solid year. Is he a superstar? No. Trace Ford, another guy, has had a solid year. Rondell Bothroyd, who I think has had a pretty good season. I don't think he's registered a sack this year, maybe 1. And so they just haven't been able to produce off the edge. And then even in the interior, again, a lot of just solid guys, just not guys that are superstars. So, again, teams are doing some different things to combat OU's defensive line. But at the end of the day, I think that they're still searching for somebody that can kind of be that superstar on the edge, and R. Mason Thomas, who I still think is kind of dealing with some nagging injuries. PJ Adebawore, his snaps have kind of gone down recently as he's a true freshman. So I don't know. I'll be interested to see if they try to dial up some more pressure this week, especially going against a quarterback like Hoover at TCU. He's not really a threat to run, whereas this last week against BYU, you bring a blitz and he escapes, he's gone, right? So it's hard to dial that up.
Is Brent Venables worried about it? He was asked about the sack numbers on Monday.
I think that's easy. Again, narrative. When you're not stopping a run, it's going to be hard. They're third and medium a lot. We didn't get them, in third and long a whole lot. And so there's that this last week. And, I think overall they were just a little over 30%, sack rate. So some of the, or 30% conversion rate on third downs. And then we had some 4th and 2s and 3s. So sometimes, again, you look at that and they're running the ball. How many times they run the ball on third down? I think there's always a story behind it. I think the easy ones, oh, look, this final stat sheet, there's no sacks. They must suck. Or you just watch the game and figure out, okay, I see, either we're not stopping running, and next thing you know, it's a lot of third and shorts and a 4th and short, so you're not going to get a lot of 7-step drop. Or maybe it is a team that's committed to run 3-man routes and 7-man protections, and so last I checked, 7 against 4 is hard, and because people do respect things that we do. We're not getting a bunch of 5-on-4 at all, not in true drop back, protection. And then again, you look at Oklahoma State. Is that our last 3 games? BYU, West Virginia, Oklahoma State. So I think it's like 80% of their throws were under 2.5 seconds. So a sack rating in the NFL, anything under 2.5 seconds is going to be about 10%. Really, you're not going to get there. So that's all by design. And so you have that, maybe if you look at the third down that we got McVickers got a PI on, it was a 3-step drop off of a RPO, so it's a called run. So the D line's getting a reach block, not a pass set. But it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and so he's getting a reach block, a base block. So he's going to play run technique because that's what he got. So he's not going to get a sack, and then they take the ball and they throw it up. So it's counted as a pass. Oh, we didn't get a sack. Where's the pressure? You're not going to get it. So, again, that's what I would say to all that.
It's interesting. I think that, like he said, you look at the box score and you worry about the sack numbers just in general, but it doesn't seem like he's overly concerned. Just fitting the right gap is probably much more of a concern than the overall sack numbers that you're getting.
And you watch those clips, Eddie, especially the BYU game.
Sure.
They got after him.
Yeah.
They got close, and he just did a good job of getting the ball
How many
out of
times
his
has
hand.
that happened this year, too?
I mean, the Oklahoma State game, it felt like almost every other play they're getting to Alan Bowman, and he just gets rid of it. And now that's why Oklahoma State, honestly, has played really well this year, is Alan Bowman doesn't turn the ball over. He gets rid of it if he sees any pressure. So that's part of it. Teams have been really good about just getting rid of the football. I think West Virginia did a really good job of that, too, a couple weeks ago. So I'm not too concerned about it. At the end of the day, though, I still believe this group just doesn't have that elite pass rusher, right? Like you think of in previous years, an Eric Stryker, Obo Okoronkwo, those type of guys that are Ronnie Perkins, Nick Bonito, like all those guys, they don't have that play right now. That's not to say one of these guys can't turn into that. I still think R. Mason Thomas is somebody that can become that. He's just dealing with some injury stuff.
Been a frustrating year for him. I think after everybody thought, this guy's going to, he
the
got his feet wet a year ago.
Yeah, the way they talked about him in fall camp and the way that he was just tearing up practice.
Sure.
I think the ankle stuff has really bothered him. It's kind of limited him. He's not playing as many snaps. And then I think PJ Adebawore, you just got to give him time. I know everybody wants to see him out there right now, but you also have to remember, he makes mistakes too, and I think he, has struggled at times at setting the edge in the run game, which is why you'll see a guy like Ethan Downs and Trace Ford, some of these veteran guys, Rondell Bothroyd, that have played a lot of football that are really good at that. They may not be the best pass rushers, but they can set the edge pretty well. That's why you're seeing a lot of those guys in there over PJ Adebawore right now.
Overall, not terribly concerned about the sack numbers. Something that is concerning, and it's something that I feel like we've talked about every week, is the kicking situation in Norman, America. George,
I asked about it.
What the hell is going on right now?
I asked about it. We're going to roll the clip here in a second. It was interesting. We never asked about it after the game on Saturday just because there were so many other things to talk about with Gabriel and all that. But to me, Eddie, the way that I read it, I don't think they have another kicker right now because, Brent said that, Zach's been their best kicker in practice. I probably believe that. And then I asked about Gavin Marshall, who we've all assumed is the backup kicker. Sounds like he's been hurt most of the season. So I think they're going to have to roll with Zach Schmidt the rest of the year. At this point, though, I'm going for it on fourth down. Anywhere inside the 20 even, I'm going for it. Inside the 30, I'd probably go for it.
Not a great situation.
It's not a great situation. And, what was it, a 28-yarder that he missed on Saturday that
in the fourth quarter
that could have ended up putting the game away because then the next possession I believe was the strip sack and then the Gavin Sawchuk touchdown, so it could have been a 10-point game over at that point. So really frustrating,
but it wasn't. And Zach Schmidt did miss a field goal. George asked Brent Venables about it on Monday.
Brent, another missed field goal on Saturday. What happened with that, and why do you think that unit's maybe been just inconsistent at times this year? Is it one thing, or is it multiple things that have gone wrong?
Yeah, we got to get a little better with our confidence and our fundamentals at kicking. We've been too inconsistent there, and right now, again, we kick multiple guys in practice, and Zach's been our most consistent. So, just like a quarterback, if a quarterback's lacking accuracy, he's just got to get better. Got to throw it on time. Sometimes it's an instinctual thing for a quarterback. Sometimes it's a mechanics thing, and we just got to get better.
Has Gavin Marshall been a part of that at all?
He has. He's been hurt most of the year, unavailable.
Not great. Zach Schmidt 4 for 8 since the Central Florida game.
Not good. And again, I mentioned it earlier about the sacks in the back half of the season. Same with field goal kicking. If you go back and you look last year, I think what did he end up finishing in the last 4 or 5 games? I think he was like 3 for 6 or something like that. So
with critical misses in games, whether it be Morgantown in West Virginia,
Texas
Tech missed, I believe 1 or 2 in the bowl game. I think
he
maybe
missed 1.
Just the one, but it came in the in a game that you lose by 1 possession.
Correct, and so it's going to cost him. Well, it already has cost him. The Bedlam game, he missed one in the Bedlam game that cost him. Right? I don't think he missed one at Kansas. Did he?
I can't remember.
I don't think he did.
Don't think he did. But
I don't think they kicked it either. The weather was terrible.
Right. I don't think there was ever an opportunity to miss one.
Correct.
And I think that when you look at 2023 and you're moving on to 2024, whether you like it or not, and I know that they have a kid come in from Moore High School that's highly acclaimed as a place kicker in the national scene. I would venture into the portal if you really have to go find somebody. You can't continue to not be good in special teams.
And you wonder, Gavin Marshall, what exactly the injury is, because he was also very highly talented out of high school. You wonder if it's going to be him and the kid from Moore maybe competing for that job. I don't know what the future is for Zach Schmidt. Maybe he'll go out there and hit a couple 50-yarders this week. I doubt it. I doubt Brent.
A lot of confidence in this room.
Well, and I also just doubt that Brent will even maybe give him the opportunity at this point. I mean, that's the most, because I've asked about kicking, I think, several times this year now at either press conferences or post-game press conferences. That is the most negative, I would say, Brent has been about the kicking situation. He's typically been, there's an excuse, the wind maybe, or the hold wasn't great, or, I've still got a lot of confidence in Zach Schmidt. That wasn't a ringing endorsement, I would say, especially leading off by saying we need to work on our confidence. So I don't know what's going to happen these last couple games here. But I do think you'll see Oklahoma maybe going for it a little bit more.
I mean, it's a little bit incredible that we're talking about this as they go into the final regular season game.
But I think that tells you they don't have another option.
No, sure.
Because I think if they did, they would have made a change. Like Brent, let's just be clear. I don't think Brent is a stupid coach, right? Like if Brent is as smart as I think he is, I think he would have switched kickers by now. And I just don't think they have another guy.
Yeah. No doubt about it. It's concerning to say the least, and especially at a position that, in a way, they have a special teams coach. Jay Nunez is ahead of it.
And look at what Texas did against Iowa State.
Sure.
Auburn was amazing for them the other night, and
it changed the complexion of the game. It extended extended the lead into two scores. It changes the way that a team has to chase you.
Exactly, and so that's why it's pivotal that, like you said, this offseason, either it's one of the young guys that they've got coming in or already on the roster, or you go find a veteran kicker in the portal, which there should be plenty, I'm sure, out there that would want to come kick for Oklahoma.
No doubt about it. And, Zach Schmidt, he gets all the blame. It's an operation. It's a unit.
I think the holding has not been great.
Right.
I will say that. And look, Schmidt's got to make a 28-yarder. You got to make that. But I do think there's been a couple misses this year that are not on him, but the holder, who is Josh Plaster.
No doubt about it. In closing, Oklahoma did name 7 permanent captains for Team 129 on Monday, as voted by members of the football team inside the locker room. Brent Venables talked about it on Monday.
Again, and that's from their teammates. They're just, again, model of consistency, highly invested guys. And sometimes people say, well, how come about these other guys? And that's not a reflection on anybody else. These are just the guys that they got the most votes. But consistency, buy-in, passion, love for the game, love for their university, love for their teammates. They've been amazing, They make everybody around them better. They got the kind of toughness that you want your program to be all about. They value their opportunity every single day. They know that their time is limited and their roles are important and their platform is important and their influence is important. So, again, all the selfless traits that you got to have, the work ethic, the toughness, the ability to persevere and endure is something I never take lightly. It's easy to be a leader a day here, a day there. When you feel good, these are guys that show up no matter what the circumstances are. That's a group of guys that'll move the coach out of the way and say, I got this, coach. And you don't always have that, but we have it. And so I got tremendous, again, like I said earlier, thankfulness for that group of guys. Again, their work ethic, their consistency, and their ability just to be a light, sometimes in some dark moments too. And, they've not flinched, and they've been the model of what you want from a ability to overcome. And like I said, this team, and to me, I believe that you're really, your real value comes from what you overcome, not what you become. First team All-League, All-American, get drafted. Those are things that you become. I think it is what guys overcome that really separates or defines you or develops you, and that's a group of guys. They all have a story. You see the glory of being, permanent captain, but there's a story behind all of them, and I love that about them, and that's what I love about being a part of a locker room.
Dillon Gabriel, Drake Stoops, McCade Mattower, Danny Stutzman, Ethan Downs, Woody Washington, and Billy Bowman, the 7
no
permanent
surprises.
captains.
No surprises.
No.
I think that those guys are all very, very deserving. They're guys that we've talked to almost every single week.
Sure.
It feels like, and you got a couple guys on there that I think have really kind of maybe grown as leaders. I think, back last year, you could probably speak to this better. They lacked some leadership at times.
No doubt.
I think Braden Willis was probably the front runner for that group. A guy that was obviously the leader, I think, of the team. But after that, I think they struggled in some leadership spots. And, I think Dillon has really grown into a leadership role. Obviously Danny has become the player and leader that I think everybody expected. You think of McCade Mattower, a guy that I think has gotten better this year, has been definitely a vocal person. Woody Washington's probably not the most vocal guy, but he's been, an Iron Man for OU. I think he's played more snaps than anybody on defense, maybe on the entire team right now. So, I think all those guys, again, very well deserving. And again, they might get a couple of those guys back. You can get a Billy Bowman, Danny Stutzman. Obviously, those guys are super valuable in terms of what they do on the field. But leadership-wise, you can get a couple maybe captains back too would be huge.
No doubt about it. That will do it. Just as another reminder, $1, 2 months, Soonerscoop.com, promo code OU1 for the YouTube viewer out there. And as we head into the final regular season game coming up on Friday, plenty out there. I know that we've talked about it. I think anybody that is probably watching this program today, George, They've run through all of the tiebreaker scenarios
No
outside of
comment.
the ones that the Big 12 hasn't decided that we're good enough to kind of understand, which would be a little bit of a nightmare scenario, and that would involve Oklahoma winning and then Texas losing Friday night and everybody else in the conference that is supposed to winning, Kansas State, OSU. And who knows? Who knows what will happen? Maybe
No
they'll
one
invite.
knows.
Maybe they'll invite.
I don't even think the Big 12 knows at this point.
Well, they would have to call the Pac-12
Yeah.
to probably get those tiebreaker issues because I don't know. I guess Nelly's more important than actual teams.
Nelly is
playing in it.
important.
He is important.
Dilemma.
Well,
Great song.
He's from the Lou. All right. For George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. This has been the Oklahoma Practice Report TCU week. We'll be back here. A little bit of a different schedule. We'll be back here, though, for the opponent preview coming up. I think we're going to try to release that maybe on Turkey Day, on Thanksgiving, or maybe a little bit before that. But we'll be back for that right here on the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel.